Viewer discretion is advised. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This account is a dramatized summary inspired by publicly available reports surrounding courtroom proceedings involving Diddy Combs. It reflects media coverage and commentary, not official transcripts or verified testimony. Tensions ran high in the courtroom. Diddy sat at the defense table, eyes low, visibly weighed down by the mounting pressure. The case had already drawn national attention, but Day 5 took an unexpected turn. No one anticipated 50 Cent to appear in person. His arrival stunned everyone. Cameras flashed, whispers rippled across the gallery, and Diddy's composure appeared shaken. For years, 50 Cent had been publicly critical of Diddy, mostly from afar. But this was different. Now he was physically present, standing in silent support of alleged victims. When he entered, gray suit, dark shades, he didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence alone shifted the entire atmosphere. Court officials noted the tension. Even the judge paused briefly, acknowledging the moment. Diddy's legal team scrambled, visibly unsettled. The energy in the room had clearly changed. During the break, reporters flooded the courthouse steps. Everyone was asking the same question. What did 50 Cent know, and why had he come? Viewer discretion is advised. This is a dramatized narrative inspired by public media reports. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. When 50 Cent finally spoke in the courtroom, the atmosphere shifted. "I'm here because I've watched this industry protect the wrong people for too long," he began. He called Cassie brave, saying she wasn't alone anymore. This wasn't a publicity move. He had come prepared. According to media summaries, 50 Cent stated he had witnessed concerning behavior over the years. Things that were once brushed off, but now looked different in hindsight. Everybody knew something was off, he reportedly said. He claimed that fear and power kept people silent. Then came the shocker. He announced he was funding an independent investigation, hiring private investigators to look deeper, saying, "Too many people have been hurt." Cassie's team later issued a statement thanking him for his support. Diddy's legal team, meanwhile, called the appearance a distraction, but it was clear it had rattled them. Inside the courtroom, the tension grew. Diddy appeared uneasy, refusing to look at the gallery. Rumors swirled that the defense might push for a gag order, but the moment had already gone viral. Celebrities began sharing Cassie's lawsuit again. The silence around the case was starting to break. When Cassie returned to the stand, she was different, stronger, more focused. Her testimony, now backed by visible support, landed with greater weight. She confirmed working with 50 Cent's team and said more witnesses had come forward since his appearance. "I'm not scared anymore," she told the jury. She described past incidents she hadn't been ready to speak about before, including an alleged 2017 trip where she claimed to be isolated and told she had embarrassed him. She shared what she described as controlling behavior, not affection. Then, turning to the gallery, she said, "I know some of you in here have seen what he's done. I hope you say something too." The courtroom was silent. Diddy stared at her, unmoving. One of his attorneys placed a hand on his shoulder. 50 Cent, seated quietly, gave a subtle nod. Cassie's words resonated now more than ever. Observers noted jurors leaning in, taking extra notes. This wasn't just her story anymore. It had momentum, support, and public attention. The defense, once confident, now appeared scattered. Their strategy, to control the narrative, was faltering. And in that courtroom, it was clear, the silence around this case had been broken. Disclaimer: the following is a fictionalized dramatization based on publicly reported information. It is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. In under 12 hours, footage of 50 Cent backing Cassie and calling out the industry went viral across Instagram, TikTok, and X. Over 60 million views poured in, and the message was clear: the silence was breaking. For years, whispers had surrounded Diddy, but few dared speak out. Now the floodgates were open. That same afternoon, Usher, once considered a protégé, quietly unfollowed Diddy on Instagram. Mary J. Blige removed all photos of them together from her profile. Justin Bieber deleted several posts praising Diddy and shared a cryptic story that read, "Sometimes we learn too late who people really are." Within 24 hours, the response snowballed. Cardi B posted, "Protect women no matter how powerful the man is." Drake liked a tweet that read, "Real ones speak up. Cowards stay quiet." Even figures outside music, like Viola Davis and Gabrielle Union, shared posts in support of Cassie. But the most unexpected shift came from a producer who had remained anonymous for years. Suddenly, they posted on X, "I worked on 3 of his projects. I saw things. I stayed quiet. Not anymore." The post had over 300,000 likes by day's end. Behind the scenes, media fallout escalated. According to Variety, executives at Revolt, Diddy's media company, held emergency meetings. Sources said advertisers were backing out. At least 2 brand sponsors reportedly rescinded deals. One Revolt employee told a journalist, "People are jumping ship. No one wants to be the last one standing next to him." Meanwhile, 50 Cent continued to post. One image showed him and Cassie at an old award show, captioned, "You always deserve better." Another post read simply, "Day 5. It starts here." His message was clear. He wasn't done. Back in court, Cassie returned to the stand. This time, her testimony was different. It wasn't just about her personal experiences. It was about a broader system of control she claimed had surrounded her for years. She used the phrase control architecture to describe how her life had been micromanaged. She alleged her calendar was handled by others, that she wasn't allowed to book her own travel, and that interactions with male colleagues in the industry were closely monitored. She referenced a 2016 incident backstage at an award show, where she claimed Diddy knocked a phone from her hand after she laughed at another artist's joke. "He told me I was embarrassing him, that I needed to remember who made me," she said. Then came the moment that shifted the courtroom's energy. With the judge's approval, Cassie's legal team played an audio clip, never before made public. In it, a man's voice, believed to be Diddy's, was heard shouting, "Don't test me, Cass. You know what happens when you push me." The courtroom went silent. The impact wasn't just in what was said, but in how it landed. The jury listened intently. The mood had shifted. The case was no longer about isolated allegations. It had become a reckoning. Cassie's legal team claimed the audio had been retrieved from an old iPad that had automatically synced to the cloud, something she had reportedly forgotten about until earlier that month. The defense objected to its use, but the impact was already felt. Diddy's expression reportedly changed. His posture slumped, and he didn't respond when one of his lawyers leaned in to speak. A courtroom sketch artist even captured the moment he dropped his pen and stared at the audio player in stunned silence. By the time court adjourned, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Even some of Diddy's most loyal supporters in the gallery appeared uneasy. The composed, in-control public figure image had started to crack. Cassie's second day of testimony reinforced what many were beginning to see. This case was about more than a single relationship. It raised broader questions about influence, silence, and accountability. Day 5 was tense from the start. Online buzz from the previous night, sparked by Justin Bieber's cryptic post, had already put the media on high alert. Extra security lined the building, sensing something major was about to unfold. And at exactly 10:13 a.m., it did. 50 Cent entered the courtroom, not through a back entrance or shielded by a team, but alone, walking directly down the center aisle in a sharp black suit and dark sunglasses. He didn't speak or gesture, but the mood shifted immediately. Reporters sat up. Phones reappeared. Even the pacing of the prosecution slowed, as if recognizing that his presence was a moment in itself. Diddy saw him instantly. Witnesses noted a clear reaction. His jaw clenched, and he leaned in to whisper to his attorney. His previously calm hands now gripped the table edge tightly. The shift in tension wasn't missed by the prosecution, who allowed the room a moment to settle before proceeding. Cassie briefly looked toward 50 Cent. No reaction, no smile, just a flicker of acknowledgement, but it didn't go unnoticed. The defense team began whispering and exchanging papers, clearly unsettled. Diddy himself turned to glance back more than once, and 50. He remained seated, arms crossed, expression unreadable. What no one in that moment fully realized was this: 50 Cent wasn't just present, he was making a point. This was no casual drop-in, it was a message. What happened next wasn't in anyone's playbook, not Diddy's, not the defense's, not even 50 Cent's, but it changed the tone of the courtroom entirely. During Cassie's afternoon testimony, she began describing a 2018 incident at Diddy's Miami residence, where she claimed she was isolated for over a day after a disagreement. As she spoke, Diddy's demeanor visibly shifted. He shook his head, whispered to his attorney, and tapped his foot rapidly. Then suddenly, he stood up and shouted, "That's not what happened," slamming his palm on the table. The sound cracked through the courtroom, freezing everyone. Even the court reporter momentarily stopped typing. Cassie remained composed. Judge Harmon immediately raised her gavel. "Mr. Combs, this is your only warning. Any further outbursts and you will be removed from the courtroom." But the tension didn't break. Diddy's eyes were no longer on Cassie. They turned toward the gallery and landed squarely on 50 Cent. "You've been waiting for this," he said, pointing. "You'll regret it." Security moved swiftly, positioning themselves between Diddy and the gallery. The air was thick with uncertainty, but 50 didn't move. He remained calm, leaned back in his chair, and simply watched. Cassie continued her testimony without missing a beat. Judge Harmon didn't call a recess. Instead, she let the silence linger before calmly saying, "Control yourself, or I will." For a man known for control, that line landed heavily. As the afternoon wore on, the courtroom atmosphere grew heavier. The emotional charge was undeniable, and everyone could feel the tide turning. The courtroom had grown unusually quiet. No one dared speak out of turn. Even reporters, known for slipping in and out during breaks, stayed frozen in their seats. Something had shifted. For the first time in decades, Diddy no longer seemed untouchable. His earlier outburst had cracked the image he'd spent years building. This wasn't the polished mogul or media-savvy executive. This was a man unraveling, and the room felt it. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, momentum was shifting. Thames reported, 50 Cent stares down Diddy in courtroom showdown. Social media was flooded with clips from old interviews where 50 had expressed concerns about Diddy, long dismissed as industry drama. Now, those warnings felt more like foreshadowing. A resurfaced 2009 clip showed 50 saying, "There's things about Puff that don't sit right with me." At the time, it had seemed like typical rap rivalry. Today, it hit differently. Inside, Diddy had gone quiet. His legal team huddled around him, voices low and urgent. Cassie's attorneys, by contrast, looked composed and confident. Their witness had withstood pressure. Their opposition had faltered. Even the jury noticed. One juror, previously stone-faced, now stared ahead with arms crossed. Another took nonstop notes as if trying to capture every detail. And still, 50 Cent sat in the back, silent, unmoved. At one point, a security officer quietly asked if he intended to stay. He didn't answer. He didn't have to, because by then, everyone in the room understood. This wasn't just another day in court. This was the day the narrative cracked, the day an industry myth began to fall apart. And it started the moment 50 Cent walked in.